but it takes a long, long study to understand the pattern. KSFO, Jim, go ahead, please. Fire away. What's on your mind?
When I get off, we'll order one. Hold on. You still there,
Jim.
Yes.
Jim's.
Hey, Mike, here's what we need to do in America. We need to develop a zero-tolerance policy for tyranny because Frederick Douglass said in 1862, the levels of a tyrant are prescribed by the endurance of those that they oppress. The reason the tyrant in the White House is doing what he is able to get away with is because we have tolerated...
No more quotes. People can't take it in. So what do you want the people to do to expose Satan in the White House? What more can I do other than call him Satan and expose every day what Satan is doing? What more do you want me to do?
Mike, you're doing everything. I admire you for what you're doing. I pray for your safety every day.
Well, so do I. I pray for my safety every day as well. I know what a gangster is in the White House, and I know what a gang is running the world. And I understand when I see a Pope and Castro and Obama on the same page, we're really in trouble.
We are, Mike. And you know what? But there are people that are out here that are trying...
I understand, but we're all powerless. You may not know it, but we are powerless. I could lie to you and tell you you have all the power. We are powerless in the face of this monstrosity called the Obama administration. I don't want to say anymore, Jim, because it'll sound like I'm Obama bashing, which is almost a redundancy. Michael Savage, Countdown to Mecca, just out last week, last in the series. I'll send it out to you. You'll be getting it in the mail real soon. 855-407-282. WMAL, Perry, you've been holding a long time on the Castro bodyguard story. Perry, welcome to the program. Make your point, please.
Yes, I just, you had said something, though, that I have to make a comment on. You said something about the Nation of Islam, 35 years of hatred. First of all, the Nation of Islam is 85 years old. And second of all, I wouldn't be a part of anything that resembles hatred or purposes.
Whoa, but your boss, whatever his name is, I forget his name, I can't remember, Louis Farrakhan, doesn't he spew hatred for the Jews almost every time he gives a speech?
He does not. You know why? Because you cannot be...
He does not? I've played his speeches on this show where he calls the Jew the devil.
All right, first of all, no. First of all, when you say something, it's funny, when something is said of truth in a strong way, it's
so you just said that he said the Jews are the devil. You say that that's the truth?
He did not say the Jews are the devil. And you
yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did on many occasions. He says it every time he can, just like Adolf Hitler did, in order to turn the Jew into the scapegoat. Your boss does the same thing. I don't care how many bow ties you wear. You're still full of hatred.
Okay, well, okay, that's your...
Your whole religion, your whole religious orientation is built on hating everybody else.
It's not, sir. With all due respect...
You show me where in the Nation of Islam you say that you could be the brother of Jews and Christians. Show it to me.
I can show you, and I can pull up a clip at another time. Matter of fact, I'll email it to you. He has said that if any Jew... one thing he said, was he told us, as the Fruit of Islam, if you see anybody desecrating a Jewish synagogue, it is our duty to defend that house where God's name...
I'm glad to hear it. Then why don't you defend it against the people who are calling Jews the devil, like your boss?
And number two, he said...
No, don't give me number two. I have the speeches. Over the years, he has been the most vile anti-Semite since Adolf Hitler. I admit that he has a nice bow tie, and he has a gang of bodyguards that are quite intimidating, but that doesn't take away from what he's saying. And we're going to argue about this, and you're going to say he didn't say it. I'm going to say he did say it. The point is, he is full of hatred, not love. He does not espouse the Christian belief in brotherhood. He espouses the hatred for everyone except Muslims. That's all. I don't even want to talk about that. WVNN Radio. David, go ahead. Fire away. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Yes, I just wanted to speak about the general situation, okay? I don't watch a lot of TV, but I just want to say that MSNBC is good TV if you want to clarify all of the garbage that we hear.
I don't know what you're talking about. Give me one example of anything they say that's rational and real.
Your listening audience, Lawrence O'Donnell, okay?
He's a communist. He hates America. He espouses nothing but hatred. He's a phony white man. makes believe he's on the side of blacks and Hispanics and the downtrodden when he's cashing in on the machine. So what are you talking about? You're buying his garbage?
NBC is good TV.
When in the world has he ever shown to be real? The man is a loser. He has no audience. So all you're doing is calling to push a television outlet that has no audience. They're bleeding audience. They have no following, David.
Well,
other than people like you who lack any education or knowledge. You're the only people who would watch MSNBC. I mean, admittedly, if you have no education or knowledge and you hate America, that's the destination for you on the channels. I agree with you. That's definitely the place for the ignoramuses to go. They feel very much at home. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN.
Today, we're also releasing new policies on the military-style equipment that the federal government has in the past provided to state and local law enforcement agencies. You know, we've seen how militarized gear can sometimes give people a feeling like there's an occupying force as opposed to a force that's part of the community that's protecting them and serving them. Can alienate and intimidate local residents and send the wrong message. So we're going to prohibit some equipment made for the battlefield that is not appropriate for local police departments.
But your thugs, your rotten, stinking inner-city thugs who are burning cities to the ground, you haven't disarmed them, have you? You false Satan, you! So he's disarming the police. He is encouraging the thugs in the inner cities. He is fomenting civil war. I wrote a book, Stop the Coming Civil War. This gangster is not finished. He's just gearing up for the final assault. Trust me, what he has done over the weekend is astonishingly clear to those of us who study these things. He ended long-running federal transfers of some combat-style gear to local law enforcement in order to ease tensions between police and minority communities. Did he say we're going to go into the inner cities and take away the AK-47s? We'll break down doors if necessary to take the damn weapons out of the gang's hands. Did he say we're going to do it in Baltimore? We're going to do it in Ferguson. We're going to do it in New York. We're going to do it in Oakland. We're going to take the weapons back from the gangsters. And then we'll talk about what the police may or may not need? No. Which side did he disarm first? He disarmed the police first. Why? Why does he want state and local police agencies to be weaker at the same time he is encouraging more civil unrest? How does he get away with this? How do the police unions kowtow to this evil man? I know how, because he buys them off. The top brass in the police department, the top brass in the police unions kowtow to the federal government because they get paid off. They get big pensions, they get big pay, big visits, big medals. They get invited to the White House to meet the contingent of police haters. And they think that they're getting something for their money. They're getting nothing but the death of themselves, the death of the police in America. So listen to what he just did. How did he do this? He did it by executive order. He's counting the police as he's saying the police are responsible for black deaths around the country without saying which blacks are dying and why they're dying. It makes it sound like the police are going out hunting black people. He doesn't talk about crime. He talks only about crimes of police. Even when there are no crimes of the police, he makes it sound as though they're committing crimes just by doing their police work. So now he takes away their weapons, and he doesn't take away the weapons of the gangs. How is that possible? How is it possible that he gets away with this? The issue of police militarization is a big one. Both right and left have commented that they're frightened of this. Many of you on the right do not like the idea of a militarized police, fearing that they could come after you with the same weapons. Well, that's another question for another time. But Obama didn't talk about that. He didn't say that armed citizens are worried about the police. He said gangs are worried about the police. And then they put out the big lie. A white police officer in Ferguson fatally shot unarmed black 18-year-old Michael Brown. Again, repeating the big lie. Michael Brown was a criminal. Michael Brown was a thug. Michael Brown beat up a small Indian shopkeeper, stole things from his store. Michael Brown, the thug, got what he deserved. Michael Thug was fighting with a cop trying to steal his gun and kill him, and the cop killed Michael Brown. Thank God for the cop's strength and guts. But again, the Associated Press repeats the big lie. White police officer at Ferguson fatally shot unarmed black 18-year-old Michael Brown, sparking protests. They said, why did the police show up in full body armor with armored trucks to dispel demonstrators? Well, if the cop were you or your father or your brother or your husband or your wife, do you want them to walk into a mob without body armor? Because that's what that moron prosecutor did in Maryland. She disarmed the police, and look at what we saw. We saw thugs, inner city thugs, throwing stones at police who were there without helmets, running away from thugs, street thugs. It was nauseating to watch this. It was sickening. My stomach turned. Inner city thugs who don't work, don't go to school, God knows what they do, living on public assistance, throwing stones and rocks at the police in Baltimore, and the police retreated because they didn't have body armor, because they didn't have armored cars, Mr. Obama. That's why Baltimore burned. My friends, this is a very dangerous time. We have Satan in the White House. Satan has now disarmed the police and encouraged the thugs in the inner cities. This is the worst day I have ever seen in contemporary times in terms of an upside-down, topsy-turvy world, and barely has it been mentioned on radio or television. I'm glad you could listen. This is the Savage Nation. Now go check out Countdown to Mecca, and you'll see what I really think.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Let's play the sound to Mad Men for a moment on the Savage Nation. It's a series on A&E that ended. Love it. Love the opening. Now, I've been captivated by this show from the beginning. I loved it for many years, then I didn't like it. I liked it best when January Jones was a skinny, vampy twin for some of the great, let's say, sirens in the history of film. Once they turned her into a sow living in Westchester with a Republican congressman, or I don't know what he was, an attorney general, I don't know what. I lost interest in her when she became fat and sat in the house. Okay, and I liked when she was in the house originally with Don, with the two children. It was the original America that we all grew up with, the little New York, the dream of America. Mother, father, children, house, picket fence. And what really went on? I mean, he was a runaround lunatic. The 7th season ended last night. Some say it was among the best in TV history. I wouldn't say so. The Sopranos are still number one. Of course, many of the same incredible film people who created The Sopranos created Mad Men, in case you don't know that. Matthew Weiner, for example, used to write many of the episodes of The Sopranos. Many of the cinematographers, producers, directors who worked on The Sopranos worked on this, and I saw overlap, like a dance scene last night of a guy, them skating through an empty house. Okay, fine. Let's say it was one of the best TV shows in history. But what is it really about? Well, for those of you who watched it, you know what it's about. Mad Men is not just a story of Don Draper and January Jones's character. Don was a womanizing ad exec. He couldn't keep his hand off any woman, no matter who it was. Soccer team of the daughter, babysitter, neighbor. The guy was an all-around DB. And he has a hidden past. Changed his name, shot his commanding officer in Korea, horrible background. Good-looking ad man type of Madison Avenue. But what the show is really about is the weird transformation that America went through in the 1960s. That's the real story of the show. It's why many of us were captivated by it, because we've lived through it. We went from the 1950s, where things were stable, America was all powerful, we had Pax Americana, everything was American, everyone wanted to be in America. All of a sudden, the degenerates like Allen Ginsberg, Timothy Leary, and the lawyer who went down south to run the anti-racism marches, I forget the lawyer's name, the three of them, plus a few of the early feminists, Betty Friedan and the other DBs, delayed broadcasters, They destroyed America. They single